Okay. How you doing, Dr. Dan?
How are you, Kyle? Thank you for pulling this all together. I'm looking
Thank
forward
you.
to this.
Thank you for being here. I'm definitely going to enjoy our talk today. We have a
Good.
lot to go over, so I'm looking forward to our conversation. Let me do first by welcoming each one of you to our CEO Forum. The CEO Forum is one of our segments of the M&A Alliance, which is comprised of a trusted group of professionals, management consultants, coaches, attorneys, CPAs, deal makers. You think of it as your external deal team. We are the people you should turn to when you're thinking about selling or buying a business or just growing your business in general. My name is Kyle Griffith. I'm the managing partner of the NYBB Group and also founder of the M&A Alliance. Today we have a very special guest who's going to talk about on the topic of M&A deals, why some close and why some do not. Joining me is Dr. Dan Schaefer. He's the CEO of Peak Performance Strategies. Dr. Dan is a confidential sounding board for CEOs, entrepreneurs, and groups throughout the United States, South America, Europe, Asia, advising them on people, culture, and the psychology of the workplace. He has developed breakthrough strategies in sports performance for professionals, including NFL, NHL, MLS, as well as other amateur athletes, consultants, sports agents, GMs, coaches, and all rely on Dr. Dan to get their teams performing at their best. So, I mean, that's a pretty, impressive resume that you've accomplished, throughout your career. So I'm definitely honored to have you here as a guest and also as a member of the M&A Alliance. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for the invitation.
Appreciate it. Now, this is being recorded. We actually are broadcasting live on Facebook, so you get a chance to review it, and also you want to join us on our various podcasts where your favorite podcast that you listen to. So, talking about deals, it's very interesting. And you have the mechanics of a deal. You also have the psychology of it. There's a lot that goes in a entrepreneur's or business owner's mindset when they're about to, perform a transaction or executing a transaction. There's a lot that's going on. I'm not the psychologist. That's why we have Dr. Dan here to kind of break this down. Many of the deals don't close because things happen beyond our control, but it's all about your mindset and being prepared and, kind of setting the right expectations. Now, I know you was involved, you had your business previously that you have sold successfully, so you can talk about that you can relate to what a lot of business owners go through, but let's just jump right into it, So tell me from your perspective, and this is going to be a back and forth conversation, so let's just talk about it. Why do some deals close and why do some don't close?
What we find is that sometimes it's obvious why something doesn't close. But the things that are more troubling to people is when something doesn't close and it has a dynamic in it that's invisible. So we need to focus on finding out what's missing in a deal, what missing. So I'll give you an example of my deal. I sold two 125-year-old family businesses at the same time. And I was approached by people who had made me some offers. But what I did is I got two advisors. I got a CPA and I got an expert in the business that I was selling, who had sold numerous deals across the country. And as this deal started to get put together, bit by bit, it became obvious that some things were missing. Some of the assurances that were made were not completely followed through on. But the thing that was interesting is that I suggest to people that I work with all the time, honor your intuition. I got a bad feeling about this as it was starting to crank up. And I realized that what I had to do was to look at it differently. And that's what I did. But I relied on my advisors. That's why I think it's so important to have people who are in a position that you're in and how you offer this to people. So I think that it's really an unusual dynamic to have not only you, but all the people in this alliance who are really like vetted professionals to help people avoid mistakes, really, really costly mistakes.
Yeah, it's true. You're talking about a combined knowledge base, right? Of folks that either been there, done that, or have access to data and information resources that you can count on. Most entrepreneurs and CEOs, they have been through a lot, right? So they've seen a lot, they've done a lot, and sometimes they rely. I mean, they are where they are because of their success, their determination, and their ethic, their work ethic, and their resilience. So they follow that gut a lot of times, and that's what's brought them to where they are. So sometimes when someone else is providing information to them that may not be in line with their expectation, their thoughts, they second guess that. But that's why you want to have advisors around you that can give you the right advice. But it's up to the CEO to make the end decision. You know.
The thing that I find interesting is you're a single point of contact that leads to everybody else that's in this alliance. So that somebody only has to make one phone call to get to the right person. Whereas if they tried to do it themselves, or if they hadn't assembled this team of people you've assembled, they'd be lost for who to go to. Or worse, they would make some decisions based on myths or ideas that they had, or misinformation that they have. I mean, I know on my website, I did a program for IFMA called the cost of myths. What does it cost you to have myths and operate on myths that people just assume are the right way to go about things? And it becomes important to do everything you possibly can to avoid making mistakes.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I have like some mistakes that we have compiled over the years that a lot of sellers make, and it's 11 of the mistakes that we have come across, and we tend to advise clients on what those mistakes are so that they don't make them. Okay.
Right.
I would say the biggest one out of all of them is the price of the business, and it's funny. Buyers make the same mistake too, because the buyer, they want to buy the business at a discount and they trying to get a deal. And, you have both parties that may be unrealistic as far as what the true value of that asset is. You have the seller that's probably been running the business for 20, 30 years. They put a lot of blood, sweat, tears in running the business. And they want to, most of their money in the retirement is actually invested in this company. And they want to get that back, rightfully so.
Sure.
And buyers, they have cash that they have built up over the years via investments or work, or the case may be, or the businesses. They want to make sure that whatever money they're putting out, that they can manage that risk and they can get a return on their investment. So we try to talk to both sides and help them understand that, and try to guide them throughout that process to make sure we get to what that right number is. And the goal is to have enough resources and information we can give our clients, if we represent the seller, the right decision on what that price should be.
Sure.
You want to say something?
Yeah, no, I think that that's important. I was on a project with a person who said to me, look, he said, we had put a deal together in the Midwest on a manufacturing company. It was a family-owned business. It was started, the owner was selling the business. And he said, we had a buyer from England who had come in, and they had sent people over, financial people, to interact with the team of the people who were on the ground. And he said, we were astounded. We got to the end of it. We got to the closing. And the owner said, I'm not selling to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, why? He said, because I don't want to give my clients over to somebody like these folks who had come in. I would not feel, because I have to live in this community. I don't really feel that they would do well by my clients, by the people who relied on me for years. Mm-hmm. And I said to the guy, I said, he said, I can't understand why it went south. Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of things happened. They sent over some financial people who kind of brusquely went through all his records and all, no interpersonal interaction with them. And ultimately, it came down to them saying, we just don't think these are the right people. And I said to him, what did you think you were selling? As he told me the whole story, he said, we were selling his manufacturing business. I said, it sounded to me like you were selling his child. You didn't treat it the way it should. So if we look backwards, one of the things we're going to talk about is why I believe so strongly in working backwards. Every one of my clients today is in 2025 working backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where you want to be. Let's look backwards from there for anything you could possibly do that would derail that. Now, 5 years out, this is not goal setting. This is a dream. Here's my dream. I've sold my business, or I've bought this business and that's what I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting stuff that people have to look at. But what I look for in a deal that doesn't close is what's missing. And none of it, in my estimation, has to do with the financial aspects, the accounting, the mortgages, any of that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with the personalities of the people who are involved. If you approach it correctly, if you're able to look at it in a different way, then you find yourself quite able to get a better chance to increase your odds of closing the deal that you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an interesting concept, looking at 2025, which is 5 years, and looking back. But if that's your goal, let's say in 5 years, I want to be at a beach in Hawaii, I want to be retired, I want to be in California, somewhere else. And then you have current events like a pandemic, right, which we are, unfortunately, a lot of business owners and people are going through right now. And then on top of this, we have current situations that's been happening, like the riots and so on, which is kind of compounding what's already been a bad situation. What would you advise your clients that their goal is 5 years out, but there's some events that are happening now that may change that goal? If you follow what I'm saying.
It might change the goal, but I tell them to keep working on the dream. I had a client who sold real estate in the city, and she said to me, I said, what do you want? I said, what do you want to have happen right now that's not happening? She said, I want a business where I can be conducting my business on a laptop from a beach, in Bermuda. So I was driving through the Hamptons, and we walked down and I saw her office. I knocked on the door and she said, well, I didn't get to Bermuda. I said, no, but you did get to the beach. But it's keeping people focused. Let them know that, see, a lot of the work that I do is with the subconscious mind, particularly when it comes down with athletes and people with significant performance issues. And so subconscious mind must act out every thought, image, or idea you put into it. Now, a lot of this may sound like it's off into the clouds, but at the end of the day, it's what helps people accomplish what they want. We talked about one definition for success is persistence plus imagination. Mm-hmm. Success is persistence plus imagination. Well, unless you can imagine something, you can't persist toward it. So it's helping people develop this dream about 2025, and it's not setting goals. This is just dreaming what you want to have happen. I've seen that happen with athletes. Kids who at 8 years old said they wanted to play for the Yankees, and they get to Yankee Stadium through a series of things they did, and they hit a home run in Yankee Stadium. So many people are sitting exactly where they thought they wanted to be a long time ago and realize, how did I get there?
Here's a story, Dr. Dan, and I do see a point, but what happens to me with the clients that I service, something happens, right? Something happens in their life. So they probably had a plan in 2025, 5 years out, whatever their timeline is, to retire and move on, but something happens in their life. Either a family member gets ill, or something happened, even a birth of a new grandchild, and they want to spend time with the grandkids, and they want to pick up a new an instrument or play golf, whatever, go fishing. It's like, you know what, I'm done. So they react to the moment, right? And you know what, I want to get out of here. Get me out of here, right? um, if in a case where a client like that comes to you and say, hey, well, Dan, I have my long-standing company. My plan was to transition this company to my grandkids and my family. But you know what? I think it might make sense to me just to cash out and move on. Walk me through that conversation. If initially they had a plan to success or to move that business on, let's say 4 or 5 years out, and they want to, because something happened and they're reacting to that moment, how would you advise a client in that case?
Well, I just had somebody who was closing this kind of a deal out in California. And I said to them, I said, when you start out with your client, take them immediately out to 2025. Tell me what 2025 looks like to you. What do you want to have happen? And the person really comes back and says, and then you can say, the way I operate, if you're having a conversation, so one of the things that I do is, even though I'm an advisor and my alliances are advisors, what we ultimately do is we sell mistakes. We'll show you the mistakes that other people have made and how much it costs them in money, emotion, and reputation to make that mistake. So you want to take a look at and say, what possibly could derail your plans? Now, one of the big things that derail plans are black swans, and that's what's going on today. 9/11 was a black swan, the pandemic was a black swan, the riots are black swans. And so people have to be prepared to pivot when something happens. They keep their dreams, but they can marshal themselves to work in a way that's really important for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So
Yeah,
I would engage them, let them tell you what 2025 looks like, because the first thing they'll say is, well, I'm talking about right now. But if you were to say, if you said to somebody, look, I have a whole bunch of clients who have told me, Kyle, if somebody says this to you, make sure you tell them this, 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 and this. This is not you telling them, but it's part of a powerful communication strategy that people use, to use your clients without ever bringing them into a room and saying, this is what my clients say. I mean, I know and anybody who's on this who would like a copy of my mistakes list, if they email me, I'll be happy to send it out. So it's on my website. Just go on the website at danschaeferphd.com and click on mistakes, marketing mistakes. People say to me, sooner. I wish I spoke to you sooner.
mm-hmm.
I'm sure that you've heard that numerous times from people. I wish I came to you sooner.
Of course.
How about people who don't know the right questions to ask?
Mm-hmm.
And so they always seem to ask the wrong questions to the wrong people. They always seem to gravitate to people who have no way to be able to help them. And so you don't want to be in that situation. Basically, what you do is you put a shield around people and make sure they can get through their deal and have it affected in the way they want. So it's creating that environment where somebody feels like they're being taken care of.
Right. I mean, one thing, let's talk a little about, Dan, about short-term discomfort versus long-term regret.
Sure. Okay.
Can you break that down for us, please?
Excuse me?
Can you break that down for us, please?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
In every deal that we make, this dynamic is an invisible dynamic. It's called short-term discomfort versus long-term regret. I may not want to deal with Kyle now, but I'll tell you what I really don't want. I don't want to be in 2025 looking backwards, wishing that I did talk to him. So how do you do that? You get the person out to 2025 immediately. I have that people do that with sales all the time and strategies that they use. So it's making sure that people have a way to realize that this dynamic is taking place. Now, you just can't say it, but realize that it's going on. There's a lot of stuff, Kyle, that goes on with people in environments, particularly that can derail a deal if you can look at it perceptively from a different angle. See, everybody involved in both selling a business and buying a business have a lot of emotion involved. When I come into a situation, I don't have any emotion involved, so I can look at a deal differently from a psychological perspective. What you say to somebody, how you say it to them, how you manage your teams. I mean, one of the big things that we're talking about today is remote management. I mean, I worked with Hewlett Packard executives globally in 16 countries. And, one of the issues they had to do is manage teams remotely. And they could not do it with a traditional management style.
Mhm.
So they had to switch over to a coaching culture that we helped them devise and implement, so that rather than managing somebody, they could coach them. And it's a very simple example. I want to know what happens with somebody with marketing this kind of a concept. The management culture is I come to work for you, you tell me what to do, and after a period of time, you evaluate me. Coaching culture is different. Coaching culture, I would come to you and you would say to me, Dan, I want you to look at this project, go back, look at it for a week, and come back and tell me how you're going to handle it. And then you have to be quiet and listen to me explain how I plan to handle it. I either agree with you or I don't, we both agree, but at the end of the day, I've committed to the process that you agree with. That's phase one. Second phase is we need it done by November 15th. Can you tell me anything that could get in your way of completing this by November 15th? So I would give you a time frame. So I've done two things. I've committed to the time and I've committed to the process. The third phase is quite simple. You just say, what do you need from me? Money, resources, offices, whatever you need. So now to manage me from a distance, all you need to do is say to me, what do you need from me today?
Mm-hmm.
So this worked. I mean, I had a client who ran the Czech Republic, and he had people in Singapore, in Palo Alto, and in Geneva that he had to manage. So you can't manage them in a traditional manner.
Right.
But he knew before they even started on a project whether it was going to work or not. I had a law firm in the city. I worked with they were litigators, and we worked with this system. And they were a little resistant to changing it. But one of the partners said to me, we implemented the system, and somebody came in to us and told us how they were going to handle the deal, and we knew immediately that it was going to fall apart. So can you identify something that will collapse before it does? Astounds me how few people today, Kyle, prepare to compete. Preparation. If people prepared the way my football players prepare, there'd be a lot less deals that didn't close.
Right.
But again, it's knowing what the psychology is behind somebody who's working on this.
Right. It's funny. You mentioned earlier about trusting your gut, and just in the same topic about short-term discomfort versus long-time regret. I mean, I can give you one story where I was selling this distribution company, and we had a buy that actually came in at full price, and my client was pretty excited. It's one of the first or second offer we had gotten at the time, and he was already planning trips to Hawaii. He was already, he was pretty much in cloud nine. It's just early in the process we got this offer, and he was dead set on selling to this client, and I just didn't have a really good feeling about it. I was like, it's like, let's see. I said, when you hired me, my goal was to bring you multiple offers. Okay, let's lay them out on the table and give you options to pick which one is the right fit. So even though I could have said, it's full price offer, let's go straight to contract. And, but I was thinking about my client. It's like, I don't really have a good feeling about this. So we continued to market. We actually put that offer on hold for a little bit. And we found another company in Pennsylvania that actually came in and is very excited about the business. And this was a true business person. They had a similar company, and they went through they actually bought a similar company like my clients before. And so they've been through the process, but the offer came in about 5% lower, close to ask, but not full like the original offer. And we decided to actually go with that offer. And I said, this is a better fit. This buyer knows your business. He's going to grow your business. He's going to take good care of your customer base. And we decided to proceed with a contract. Lo and behold, the original offer that came in, that buyer called me and said, Kyle, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to back out because this is what he's telling me. He said, I have to back out because the person I had planned to put in charge to run the company have been stealing from me for the past 2 years. So I have an internal, I have a ship that's going down essentially. I have a problem right now with my company. I need to get fixed first prior. Had we taken the business off the market and just focused on this one particular buyer, it would have been a long-term regret because you wasted time on the market. And from my experience, from what I've seen, when sellers get early offers and those offers do not manifest into a closing, they get discouraged. And the psychology, like, hey, you know what? I think I'm doing the wrong thing here. But we can rely on our experiences of having multiple buyers in the game to give the seller some more perspective, and we can analyze different situations. It actually worked out. We did sell a company. We moved the company to Pennsylvania, and that deal actually worked out pretty good for both parties. But I'm just looking at one of your talking points here, that definitely would have been a long-term regret had we, because I actually had a similar deal like that a couple of years back where the seller decided, no, I'm no longer going to sell my company. And then 2009 happened. Was it tail end of 2009, and he ended up not even selling his company. He decided to have his brother take over the company, which felt good morally for him, but he didn't get that impact of having a financial gain of that, money coming in, so to speak, to cover his retirement plans and so on. So he felt good having his brother take over the company, but he did that. He cut his losses because he didn't want to go through the stress of the whole sale process, the whole psychology and all that's involved in selling a business. Very stressful. It can be very stressful.
It can be. And it's understanding how stressful it is when you don't have support, when you don't have somebody to help you.
Yeah. I can't believe how time just flew by. I know we're in for 30 minutes. I'm okay hitting the next topic before we call it a wrap. Let's talk about the article that you wrote. There's money in
Money and mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting is that coming back to the short-term discomfort versus long-term regret.
Okay.
People really don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah.
What I would encourage anybody who's listening or watching this program, if they made a list of the mistakes that their clients made before they became their client, and what it cost that client in money, emotion, or reputation to make that mistake, put those things together, and instead of selling the features and benefits of what you do, I think psychologically it's more powerful to sell the mistakes. So look, here are a list of the things I've seen people do that I'm not going to let you do. I'll tell you a funny story. I did a program for an accounting firm for 40 partners in the city about 8 years ago. And somebody said to me, we have our senior partner is going to sit next to you and he'll curmudgeon you through the whole program. So toward the end of the program, and we had a good time, it was about 2 hours, he said to me, so what are you going to do to help us grow our firm? Mm-hmm. I said, I'm going to tell you what you can do, but you'll never do it. He said, what's that? I said, when I came in and I looked at your office, you had beautifully carved letters over the reception desk. I said, if you got it, and this is an accounting firm, I said, if you got an orange prison jumpsuit and hung it off those letters with a big sign that says, we'll never let you put this on. He says, what, are you crazy? I said, yeah, but nobody would ever forget it. So it's people want to know. I mean, it's like people will say, what do you mean by the mistakes? It's if I said to you, you tell me you're driving out to California with your family. And I said, look, I have a list of radar traps between here and California. Do you want them now, or do you want to wait till you get to California to buy it? You want them now. So anything you can do that you can identify before that happens, then you can avoid them. So I have a list of mistakes. I'd be happy to share it with you.
Sure, you'll add it to the recording. That way, folks.
Well, they're on. As a matter of fact, they're on my website. If you just go to danschaeferphd.com, look for articles and click on money and mistakes.
Yeah, what we'll distribute that, and we'll add it when we when we close off to make sure folks get access to it. And
Sure.
I'll be happy to share our mistakes as well, what mistakes our clients have made that other clients, potential clients, can benefit from.
And my offer to anybody on the phone is, if you want to send me your mistakes list,
Mhm.
I'll make that list confusing, because for it to be effective, it's got to be confusing. When somebody says to me, what mistakes do your clients make? I'll say sooner. They say, what do you mean by sooner? I say, well, I should have called you sooner.
I like that one. That's funny. I mean, another big mistake is not having good financial records. I mean, that's one of the biggest mistakes that we see in the marketplace when we review businesses. I mean, it's, you try to minimize your tax, but it can come back to really kind of hurt you in the long run. So I think, you talk about planning into 2025, looking onward. If you have enough of a runway, you have 4 or 5 years left before retirement, it makes sense to kind of, clean up your bookkeeping and make sure you have your financial, and, contact a good accountant, or, have your accountant come and review all of your books and records, because out of all the questions we have from buyers, the first thing they want to see is the books, before they make
Sure.
any conversation.
And if you move, if you have, imagine that you had a client who was in 2025, and you say, take yourself out there, let's look backwards, and you could say, here are a list of the things people don't do, and if you give them 5 years,
Yeah.
you get things together.
Right. Exactly. I think one of the goals of the Alliance is to put together a group of professionals that can provide that, and even be a complementary service to a CEO's existing team. So I appreciate you, Dr. Dan, joining us in our talk today. I mean, there's so much that we could cover, but it's always, we have a limited time to cover a lot of these topics. But I know you have a webinar, right? A webcast that you do.
Yes, I'm putting together, I've just put together a program called 888. It's 8 keys to a competitive edge for 8 weeks to help people identify the keys to a competitive edge. It's going to be run at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, 7 to 8 on a Monday morning, Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to put in a West Coast time because we're getting requests from the West Coast for this. So, but I think to be able to start out your week with strategies that will work effectively, and then you'll find out basically what your competition is doing that they will never ever talk about.
Right.
That's the key part here, is that people don't give away their competitive edge, whoever they are. Athletes, golfers, makes no difference.
Right. So we'll make sure that we share information for everyone so they can find it. And once again, how can folks get a hold of you, Dr. Dan?
My website, danschaeferphd.com. My phone number is 917-880-6758. You can text me or call me. I'd be happy to talk to you about any of the issues that we brought up here, or fundamentally the basic question I ask people: what do you need to have happen right now that's not happening? And we go on from there.
Okay. Thank you very
much for today, Kyle. This is great.
Thank you very much. And as always, you can always visit our website. It's M&A Alliance.com, and Dr. Dan's contact information is there as well. And we will have the recording for this podcast and this broadcast on our website. So thank you very much. This is Kyle Griffith, founder of the M&A Alliance, and appreciate each and every one of you joining us here this evening with this talk. Thank you very much, Dr. Dan.
Thanks again, Kyle.
Have a great day. Be safe.